on the History Channel, or something that grabs my attention on the television, I cannot walk away from it. And if anybody comes in and tries to change the channel, I got a little bit angry. Or not angry, but I stopped them. And there was this incident, it was 2001, I think, where I was watching a show, and this person comes in and he grabs the remote control, and I can see this in the corner of my eye because I'm kind of watching a show, and I said, "Don't change the channel," right? And he says, "Well, I came home to watch blah blah," and he goes to change the channel, and I said, "Don't touch that remote control." And he was about to press the button, and then he just drops the control on the floor and goes, "Ow, ow," and looks at it, and he's like, "That burnt," And then he picks up the remote control, opens it, and it's all melted inside. And he says, "Why did you do that? You couldn't have just told me." I said, "I told you not to touch the button." And it was just one of those things, It's
Is this like a reaction?
It was a reaction, yeah. Don't touch my remote, So yeah, I mean, those things are there, and they're not really to be used as such. Anybody who reaches a certain level of awareness can do this stuff. It's part of the human toolkit. It's not something that I brought in from outside. This is all wired into every human being. And this is part of the human toolkits that are being suppressed and invalidated in everybody, and people are taught that they don't exist, taught that they're not able to do these things. And a pattern that I've seen that's really interesting is that somebody who's in a spiritual road to become enlightened, or to spiritual evolution, a road of spiritual evolution, will always, without fail, develop all these things, without fail. But somebody who goes out of their way to develop these things are not necessarily developing the spiritual evolution side. So they're not, they don't go together, but somehow the person who goes for a spiritual evolution path will always develop these abilities.
It's a natural byproduct.
It's a natural byproduct of developing in a spiritual way.
Yes.
But someone who just goes out and wants to learn telekinesis and whatever, and move things around, or read people's minds, or go and do remote viewing, and they can actually, anybody can do it. They can go out and learn these things, and there's some fabulous tools and books out there that can teach them to do these things. But they don't necessarily develop their spirit by doing it.
Totally understood.
Yeah.
And your telepathic abilities must be very highly advanced. Presumably you can look into anyone's mind and read anything you want to.
Right, that's a really interesting way to put it, because telepathy is not about going into somebody's mind and seeing what's there, because the person's mind is not what holds the memories and feelings and emotions. So even looking at it that way, you're going to be extremely limited to what you can do in a telepathic way. You may be able to do card reading. If somebody's playing cards, you can look into their cards because they're looking at it at that moment, right? Normally, if somebody's told, "Oh, INELIA can read minds," whatever they're trying to hide comes up, right in front of them. So that will be broadcast, and I can pick that up. But how telepathy really works is the best way that I can describe it would be...
It's a merge.
Yeah, it's more like a merge of mind, a merge of beings more than mind, because a merge perhaps even into the collective where the other person is, right? And then once there, you don't necessarily pick up sentences. You can pick up visuals, feelings, memories, and sometimes actual thoughts as well, like what the person is thinking at that precise moment.
The way that I understand this from the conversations that we've had about this is it's like you temporarily step sideways and you be that person. You sort of become that person, and then you can access what they access.
Yes.
Is that anywhere close?
It's a little bit like that, but what you're describing is actually the sessions that I do, where the person, the space between the two individuals it's made non-existent, as it were, and then the person and I would become one, or would actually, if you look at it in another way, the person is raised to a level of oneness where they can have access to all this information and tools, right? And I would have access to them in that moment as well.
Okay. So the process, for example, of looking into someone's life and being able to watch it, to see anything that you want to see or that they want you to see, a little bit like watching a movie. You can go to any point on it.
Right.
If it's a movie that you've downloaded and you're looking at it on your computer, you can say, right, I go to this point here.
Yes, it's a little, well, it's not quite like that, because if we look at it on a way of time, the time track, for example, a person's life track, whether in this lifetime or whether their entire life track, backwards and forwards. Forwards is really is a little bit more difficult to see, because we have so many timelines branching off at any one moment that one thing that the person thinks or says or decides will change that timeline, right? So to look forward in that person's timeline is the most probable timeline if nothing changes, right? But looking backwards is quite easy, because they're here through having having traveled through this particular timeline, one specific one. They can actually go sideways and look at their own parallel timelines, things they would have done if they had done things differently. And also look and see, if they want to do something differently, have a look at a timeline where they did that differently and see, get all that information and then do it here, recreate it. But looking at somebody's timeline is slightly different to what I've seen other people do. When I've seen psychics look at timelines, they look, like you said, they look like a movie. They go into what's called the Akashic Records and look at it like a movie, while when I do it, I actually go there. I actually go to that point in time and look at that moment like a bilocation. So I'm actually there.
A bilocation in time
as well? In time-space, yeah. Mm-hmm. In time-space. So I would actually be there, and it's really, I have to be extremely careful when I do that, because if the person is really psychic, they will see me. And they will say, you were there! And that happened to me recently. Yes. The second that I looked at the person, she turned around to me and says, you were there.
Yes.
You know? And of course, I hadn't been before I did it. But she picked it up that I was there at that moment.
Yes.
So I have to be really careful, because it can change things. It can change the past. It can change the future.
So you have to be careful only to be an observer and to leave absolutely no footprints.
No footprints, nothing. Yeah.
And now, Whitley Strieber, in his work, his website, unknowncountry.com, he was one person among a number of commentators who described very graphically one night a few years ago. He had this extraordinary vivid dream, and dream in inverted commas, and in this vivid dream he experienced himself one after the other in different realities. There was one when his wife, I can't actually remember the details, there's one when either his wife was sick or had died, there was another when they were living in poverty, another one when they were living in a different place and he was doing something different. And it's like he went on this kind of guided tour in this vivid dream, all these different lifetimes. I think there were 6 of them, something like that. And then he returned, and he was so shocked and he was so